Hello everyone, my topic is leadership preparation. It examines principal readiness or leadership readiness in relation to special education. I chose an hourglass theme for my presentation because time is such an important factor in life and as a leader. The time as a leader that you have or may not have to make decisions day to day that affect the lives of your staff, students, and teachers. And then time in relation to leadership preparation and programs. How that time is spent in preparing for leadership and in becoming ready or being ready to take on whatever you face once you leave a program. My research led me to some current practices that are in place. 8 out of 97 leadership programs in the United States offer a separate law course for special education. Garrison, Wade, Sobel, and Fulmer found that principals and future leaders leave the profession due to ill preparation of the job at hand. Principals reported difficulties with job knowledge and specialization for individuals with disabilities. And a current practice that's in place is a heavy reliance on central office staff when it comes to special education. So a few guiding questions that I have for my research and my case study are: what requirements do university programs have for effective leadership? What are the strengths and weaknesses in a leadership program? What process does a leadership program follow to redesign a curriculum based on input and current research? So my case study involves a new principal appointed by a new superintendent with the task of creating more inclusion within the school that he or she is at. The school district itself has a long history of segregation when it comes to special education. They have a high number of specialized schools within their district, and they also outplace a high number of students to specialized programs. Over the course of 10 years, the school district closed 30 out of 150 schools. There are 3 class action lawsuits that are waiting for to appear in federal court for inclusion practices. 80 principals were dismissed over the 10 years. 500 teachers were terminated, and the special education budget was 20% of the district's expenditures. So leader implications for preparation for special education administration, and these also apply to my case study. This is kind of the foundation that I believe that all leaders should have when taking on a leadership role. A knowledge base of laws pertaining to special education, legislative requirements for your particular state. I know Connecticut has had a few, particularly the seclusion and restraint legislation that was passed in July that has a huge implication for building leaders as well as central office staff. Academic performance in your schools. Do you have a high number of special ed referrals for eligibility purposes? How are RTI practices implemented in your school? Is there an RTI process? For my case study, RTI practices at the elementary school did not exist. That's one of the issues at hand. Programming and scheduling for special education. How many students in your school are included with their non-disabled peers? This was part of my case study, and looking at one of their class action lawsuits is about time with non-disabled peers. And how do you program for special education? The development of IEPs. As a building leader, do you know what an IEP looks like? Could you advise a teacher in writing an IEP? If a teacher were to come to you asking for accommodations and modifications, an art teacher, music teacher, would you be able to know what that looks like and advise them accordingly? As far as assessment practices, are you aware of the number of students that have alternate assessment and how that is determined at IEP meetings. And then what accommodations do they need during that testing period for the district and state exams. And the evaluation and support of teachers, one of my research findings showed that a large number of special education teachers leave a district or a school because they feel as though they're not supported. And that goes back to the heavy reliance on central office staff to support special ed teachers. Oftentimes special ed teachers feel as though they're not supported within their own buildings, and they rely on central office staff. So as far as evaluating through the new teacher evaluation system, do you know what you're looking for? Do you know what a classroom should look like? And how you can help that teacher develop. So some desired outcomes for my research, and that can also be applied to the case study, would be looking at increasing hours in a field-based internship. In one of my readings from Carney and Valdez, it was a more recent article published from 2015. They explored principal preparation programs, and one of the I believe it was the University or Eastern Tennessee University was requiring 500 hours of leadership internship before you could receive your certification. And the state of Tennessee only requires 180 hours. Summer professional development to support new leaders, and that comes from a partnership with the universities and districts. So universities would offer the PD in the summer for leaders, a follow-through on leaders, a follow-up in terms of who graduates from the program, who receives their certification, the success and failure rate of principals and leaders, and then how the universities can work with districts to support new leaders and current leaders in place. And this is being done at the University of Pittsburgh. And then last, an examination of curriculum and content and leadership programs. So in looking at sort of infusing special education for current courses that are being offered versus a separate track. So my research shows that special education is an integral part of leadership development, and as a leader, you set the tone and the climate as to whether students are included or not. Lastly, I would just like to thank everyone for their support this semester. Elijah and I thank you very, very much.